Okay, council, it is 7 o'clock. I call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Okay, up next we have roll call. Okay. Somebody needs to tap it one more time. Okay, all right. Okay, Ms. Martinez.
Okay, all counselors present with Counselor Vigil absent from the meeting. And a quorum has been declared.
Okay, yeah, can you remove that this webinar is being recorded from Ms. Brooks' face? Thank you. All right. Good, thank you. Up next, we have the agenda approval.
Heather, I can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
You can't hear me?
Oh, we can hear you
Now we can.
Mayor, I believe Counselor Vihil's reason for not being here was work related, so it would constitute as being excused.
Yes, that's true, Ms. Brooks. If you could let the records reflect that. You had a
Yes, sir.
parent-teacher conference meeting tonight.
So all counselors present with Counselor Vigil requesting to previously be excused.
Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to the next item is the agenda approval. Councilor Grego.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented and excuse Counselor Vigil.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not? Please start voting.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. That brings us up to citizen comments. This is the portion of the agenda to where we have citizens who are here in the audience who fill out a comment card, will come up to the podium, make your comments. We do ask that you keep your comments within 3 minutes. If you're still talking at the 3-minute mark, where we will have the clock on, I will politely ask you to end your conversation and your comments at that particular time. Okay, we have Ms. Shana.
Hello, everybody. This is Shanna McCray, and I live here in Alamosa. I'm coming tonight. I think I handed out some stuff to Holly today. I don't know if she got it to you, but I'm coming out tonight to invite everyone to attend a question and answer session regarding Proposition 122 that's on the ballot this year. This measure is called the Natural Health Medicine Act, and it's asking the state to establish a regulatory system through DORA to provide alternative treatment methods for people in all types of mental health issues, as well as other therapeutic measures. So this group is coming to Alamosa as part of a statewide tour to inform people. They have stops in Trinidad and in Durango, and I contacted them about Alamosa and said, please come down here, educate some people, inform people, and I'm requesting a lot of mental health counselors to come and also people that are in positions of influence just to come and get correct information about this ballot measure. And that way they can vote with knowledge and appropriately. Hopefully, this will improve people's ability to seek out alternative treatments and experience great results. Some almost within a couple of sessions versus years of psychotherapy alone or pharma-assisted medication treatments for addictions. There's a wide field that it's applicable to. So I would also encourage you to do some of your own research, just like with anything, to make sure that you're getting good information, but also don't ignore the anecdotal evidence that's out there, and don't ignore studies because they don't align with your beliefs or things like that, but just to educate yourself. There is a good show, a documentary series on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind. And they do focus on different episodes, different substances that are also included in this bill and that may be added later. But I would encourage you to watch it, especially the episode about psilocybin and the therapies and the models that they're using to study how it helps people. And know that this proposition goes hand in hand with establishing facilities where counselors can come with their clients, or they can have their own facilities available to provide this in a therapeutic setting. This isn't about stores. This isn't about, anybody and everybody growing it. These are state licensed facilities that would be required to have, measured things that they have to do. Also, if this bill passes for the state, it's statewide. Counties cannot prohibit those licensed facilities from existing within their counties. So it's something that I would encourage you to read just in case it doesn't pass or it passes. And we don't want to be wondering what to do or what does this mean after the fact. So I just encourage you to kind of arm yourselves now with your questions and then bring them Monday night on October 24th to the Alamosa Recreation Center from 3 to 5 p.m.
Sorry, the clock is not working.
That's
so,
okay.
I'm
I'm
Our
done.
attorney had this. one,
Thank
but
you very
so
much, guys. Have a
Okay,
good day.
Thank you.
And council, that form she dropped off is all in your mailbox.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the Zoom participants right now, see if we have anyone on Zoom who would like to make any comments. Ms. Martinez, if you could show them how to raise their hand.
Yeah, so if you're on the Zoom app and you want to speak right now, you could use the raise your hand feature on the bottom of your screen. If you're on a telephone, you'll dial *9. Mayor, I don't see anybody raising their hand.
Okay, because it looks like we're at the panelist page, so we don't see anyone on the attendee.
Let me switch it for you.
Okay, all righty. Since we don't see any hands raised at this time, we'll go ahead and close this portion of the agenda, bring it back to our city manager and city attorney for any follow-up.
Mayor, I don't have any follow-up.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ms. Brooks. So that brings us to the next item on the agenda, consent calendar A. Council Grego,
I'll make a motion, we approve consent calendar A.
Second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? Okay. Please start voting. Okay, Ms.
The
Martinez,
motion carried unanimously.
thank you. Up next, we have under regular business, board appointments, library board appointment. Ms. Martinez.
Okay, so you have appointments you need to make for the library board. So you've interviewed 3 applicants, Vashti Simmering, Jamie Guile, and Scott Nielsen. You interviewed them, 2 of them on 9/21 and the other one tonight. So since we only have 2 vacancies on this board, so you need to vote, vote for 2. And then we'll make an appointment. Once I count the ballots that I've given you, they've all been placed in front of you. Then I can let you know, and you could do a voice motion ratifying the selection.
Okay.
Okay, after counting your ballots, you guys have voted to appoint Scott Nielsen and Jamie Guile to the board. So if we could get a voice motion ratifying that selection.
Okay. Counselor Carson,
I move that we appoint Scott Nielsen and Jamie Guile to the library board.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Not? Start voting, please. Ms. Martinez?
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, business brought forward by the city staff. Finance, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 16-2022. An ordinance making the annual appropriations for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
This is the second reading after at least 2 work sessions and a public meeting that was held on the budget, so I will keep it short. Overall, we are anticipating revenue just shy of $30 million. And we are looking at expenditures of about $33.5 million. That's for all funds. Of that 33.5, about 9.8 million will be dedicated towards capital projects. The overall factors impacting the budget this year for revenue, we did project about a 3.6% increase based on the 10-year average. We are including a 4% increase for compensation. That includes 2% for cost of living that will impact everyone, as well as a pay for performance where employees can earn anywhere from 0 to 3%. And then another impact to the overall budget was about a 12% increase in our healthcare expenses. With that, I'm open for any questions after you hold the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brooks. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the public hearing and the second reading for ordinance number 16-2022, an ordinance making the annual appropriations for fiscal year 2023. If we have anyone out in the audience who would like to make any comments at this particular time, please feel free to come up to the podium and voice your concerns. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up, so we're going to go ahead and move to the participants who are on Zoom. If you would like to make any comments in the public hearing and you're attending by Zoom, please raise your hand by hitting the raise your hand feature so we can acknowledge you and give you an opportunity to speak. Ms. Martinez, I don't see any hands raised.
I don't either, Mayor.
Okay, so I am going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council for further comments and or to make motion. Council Grego?
I just had a question on the pay increase. Everybody will get a cost of living, right, city manager? That's the 2%.
Yes, so the way the 2% works is it's gonna shift our entire pay plan up 2%. So it increases our starting wages, which helps us kind of keep up with the market, but it's also shifting everybody who's in the pay plan. So everyone will get that 2%.
And the question I had was the pay for performance. That's the other 2%. They can get up to 2% on pay for performance.
Well, they can get up to 3%, but the fiscal impact is usually, that averages out, it's like a bell curve. Because some are gonna get 0, some might get 1, some might get 3, some will get 2. So that's why the budget impact actually curves out to like a 2% impact. So that's why 4%'s budgeted, but it's a 2% COLA and up to a 3% pay for performance.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Grego. Councilor Daniel?
I just want to say thank you. I know this is never an easy process. And so if there is no further discussion, I would move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 16-2022, making the annual appropriations for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Councilor Krebs?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Thank you, staff, for all of your work you put into this. Greatly appreciate it, and keep up the great work. Start voting, please.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. The next item, item B, discussion on the state sales tax exemption. Ms. Brooks?
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
This is an item that in the previous legislative session, the state decided to exempt certain purchases from the state portion of the sales tax. And those items are incontinence products, diapers, and period products. From a locality, so a city or a county or a special district, if we also want to exempt those, then we would need to pass our own ordinance. And so what's before you tonight isn't an ordinance, but it's a discussion on if you would want us to bring an ordinance before council. Staff's recommendation is that we should not. And it's kind of more of a philosophical reason versus some of the excitement that can occur around some of these special interest groups. And so as we all know, we've got Tabor, and Tabor very appropriately limits governments from being able to increase our sales tax. So our sales tax of 2.5 is locked in. And so what that means is as our costs are growing, if our base is the same, our rate is the same, if spending doesn't increase, then we can't keep up with growing costs. If spending increases, then we can keep up with inflation and those types of things. And sales tax can really go up and down a lot. So we're very protective of our base. And so anytime there's something that's going to exclude and shrink our base, that means it's going to reduce the amount of revenue that we're bringing in. We have no way of telling you how much sales tax we get in from these products. What I can tell you though is at the state level, they still fall under Tabor for how much they can collect from their sales tax. But the residents of Alamosa have debruced us, which means, you know, as long as our rate stays the same, we can keep however much that tax brings in. So for the state, they had to give refunds this past year because their sales tax grew faster than what Tabor allows. So by them saying, well, we'll go ahead and exempt these items, that's really not going to impact them because they were already collecting more than what they could and were having to do refunds. We are not in that same situation. Our voters have debruced us, which means if you guys do shrink our base down, that is less money we're going to see because we wouldn't have been doing refunds or anything like that. And from a staff perspective, for us, it's a slippery slope. There can be another group that can make a logical, great argument on why something should be exempted, and it's going to further reduce what our base is while our rate is locked in. And so from a philosophical perspective, staff recommends applying this exemption at the city's sales tax, but it is up for council discussion.
Okay, so just so I can make sure I'm clear when we get to this point, you're just basically in a consensus on this, or do
Correct.
you? Okay, all right, Counselor Daniel,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
Heather or team, have we received any feedback from anyone locally about how this is impacting them negatively, or is it still so, because it hasn't been put into effect yet, because it starts 2023, we haven't really had a lot of feedback?
To my knowledge, I have not heard of any feedback.
Okay, I don't see any other lights on, so we can get a consensus of how you all feel about this. Counselor Daniel?
Thank you. So I struggle with it a little bit because the people who need these products, well, so everyone needs these products, right? Except for, people who don't have children, don't buy the diapers, right? But the period products and things like that, I get why the law was passed, right? Like I get that. And so I worry about our residents who we know struggle. And I worry about our sales tax base, right? I think that that's a logical argument. And so with our tax staying at 2.5%, I think I would like to say that I agree with the recommendation from staff that we don't reduce the sales tax. And that if we start seeing a lot of challenges, or if there are things that do come up, that we would revisit it in the future, should it be an unnecessary burden on folks. But I would agree with the staff at this point.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Daniel. Counselor Cribs? And then Counselor Hensley.
I agree with Counselor Daniel and the staff on this. And I'm also in agreement that it's a difficult decision, but it sounds like coming from the state, it might be the first of many. If the state is, first of all, our residents here in the city, they're going to get the state sales tax. We're not denying them that 100%. They will get the state sales tax on this in our stores. What we're discussing is whether or not we go along with that and also reduce our tax base. And I do not want to reduce our tax base. The residents are still going to see a discount from the state side of it. But I feel if we move forward on this, next year it might be another item. And then next year it might be another item. And how do we weigh one versus the other? I think at the moment we need to take a stand and say we support the state doing it, but we need to protect our residents first and the tax base so that our monies can go directly back to them as needed. And again, I agree with Counselor Daniels that if we need to look at this again next year, we can totally do that. But for right now, my answer would be no.
Thank you, Counselor Cribs. Counselor Hensley, followed by Counselor Carson.
So I'm not gonna, everything's been said, so just so you get my consensus, I agree.
Okay. Counselor Carson, then Counselor Griego.
I do not agree with staff or the rest of council. I think that we have a population in this town that would benefit from that. As we've seen over the last 2 years, especially, the economy has taken a massive hit, and it's not just people of lower incomes that are being affected, it's people across the board. However, I do think this kind of incentive is, if we can do something like this to help our population, especially people that need the money, because again, everybody needs the money right now, some people more than others. But with some of the struggles we've seen accumulate over the last 2 years, I do or would like to see something like this done at a city level. We do have an extremely high tax rate as it is, and our tax base is doing pretty well. I don't see that changing something like this would have a huge effect, besides the effect it would have. I don't think it would have as big effect on the city as it would on individual people saving some money. So I do not agree. I know that you guys will come up with a consensus, but I think that we should try to help our constituency in any way possible, and trying to save them pennies if it is, would be helpful. Because again, everything has gone up. I mean, you're talking almost double a Walmart trip costs. And so I think if you can save your constituency some money by doing something like this, it's the right thing to do. And, you know, we talk about equity constantly and all these different things across the board. And when we have an opportunity like this to bring some equity and to bring a little bit of relief to our constituency, I think we should jump on that, not run away.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Carson. Counselor Griego, then Counselor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
I agree that we live in a depressed area, and whatever we can do to help our constituents, especially the ones who have babies and stuff, we should help. I'd like to see some numbers before we even think about to go to one direction or the other. You know, if it's gonna cost us a lot of money, I could understand what staff's saying, you know, with our tax base. But anything that, as Councilor Carson is saying, anything that we can do to help our constituency, we should help them, you know. And right now, the cost of everything is up there so high, you know, and every nickel and dime helps out families, you know. So I agree with the position staff's taking too, but we need to look out for our constituency too, you know, especially the families. And we've got a lot of families out there with a lot of babies and stuff, and these other products too. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Griego. Counselor Daniel, then Counselor Carson.
Thank you, and thank you, Counselor Carson and Counselor Griego. Heather, can you remind me what our sales tax rate is, and so what the, what would be impacted by this?
So it's 2.5%.
Because the
And-
other,
And I was just gonna also offer, it doesn't matter who the person's income when they're buying these products. It's just the sales tax in and of itself the products would be exempt from the sales tax. So the city portion is 2.5%.
that is what I was, trying to remember. Thank you.
Council Carson?
Actually, during purchases, it does matter because people with more money tend to spend more money. People with less money tend to spend less money. That's just the way it does work. So I do, or I know that you have a consensus in not moving forward with this now, but I would wonder if it's possible for you to get us some numbers to see what kind of a hit that would do eventually, or over the course of a year, if that's a possibility, if you guys could project any of that. Because I do think this is something we need to revisit. And again, even if we were to step this back now, taxes go up and down all the time. So this could change again in the future as the income stabilizes and people are seeing more money in their pocket instead of, paying it out. So if that's a possibility, I would agree with Councilor Griego. I would really like to see some numbers before we just chuck the idea out the window.
So I'm sorry, if I wasn't clear when I started this, we don't have a way to collect those numbers. So I have no idea if it's a large amount or a small amount.
Okay. So earlier I asked you what you needed, Ms. Brooks, and you mentioned a consensus, and it looks like you have a consensus to follow staff recommendation.
So I know we've got 2 who would like an ordinance and 3 who agree with staff recommendation. Mary, I think you need to just make it clear where you land.
Sure, I land with the staff recommendation.
Okay, so I'll take that consensus. I will talk to finance or to see if the state has any types of tools to try to estimate something based on population, but we don't get that type of granular data naturally from our sales tax collection based on products. So, I mean, we can continue to try to look at that.
Okay, thank you. That brings
Mayor,
us,
can I ask another question? I'm sorry.
sure.
Sorry, so I do think this is important. And I think it passed for a reason in our state. So I am wondering if there is a way to extrapolate from the state data if we asked staff to bring it back to us in 3 months. So can we see what the difference was in the state's data with this change and then try to figure it out for us? Or is that just too much to ask, Heather? If that's like too much staff time, I completely understand that.
I mean, I can see if the state thinks they have a way to track it, but there's so many factors that can drive changes in sales tax. So I can check to see if they're gonna have some kind of code that tracks, the volume of what they saw from purchasing, but we would have to check into that. Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know when it goes into effect, so I don't think 3 months would give us enough time either.
Oh, I meant after January. So it starts
Okay.
January 1st. I meant 3 months after it starts, not 3 from now. I apologize.
Okay,
Cause I do want to say I'm more on the fence. Like, I agree with staff's recommendation about not changing our base, but I also believe that Counselors Carson and Counselor Griego's statements are true. Our folks get hit with this, and if you have babies and you have, or older people you're taking care of, that it can add up. I
I-
guess I just wish there was more data.
I agree with you, Counselor Daniel. The one comment you made, though, that I just want to point out, when you say, the state made this decision for a reason, they made it under a completely different situation, though. They made it under a situation of knowing they were doing refunds. So, and universities are underfunded, K-12 is underfunded, the highways are underfunded. So they made it from a pot they knew they were having to give back. And that's an entirely different decision-making scenario than what we're under.
I want to make sure you can hear me and see me because I'm nodding and I know you're, but yes, I thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, all righty. So we'll go ahead and move forward with the next item on the agenda, public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 19, 2022.
Thank you, Mayor. I was making notes to
Welcome.
make sure we followed up on that last item.
Okay, no worries.
This item was actually on consent for your first reading because it's pretty much housekeeping. It's maybe just correcting some of the names and updating some dates and those types of things. It's just, it allows our departments to provide mutual response to other fire departments in the valley with no changes from the previous agreement.
Okay. Okay, all righty. We're gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing for the second reading of ordinance number 19, 2022. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments, please feel free to come to the podium and make your comments at this time. Okay, I don't see any audience participants coming to the podium, so I will open it up to the Zoom participants to give you an opportunity to make comments for ordinance number 19, 2022, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement amongst the municipal fire departments and fire protection districts in the San Luis Valley for the provisions of a mutual aid. Okay. Don't see any hands, Ms. Martinez. So I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Councilor Griego.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 19-2022.
Okay,
Second that.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, please start voting. Ms. Martinez.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Up next on the agenda, we have a public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 18-2022, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Alamosa Fire Department and the Colorado Department of Public Safety Division of Fire Prevention and Control for the provisions of mutual aid.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're
This is
welcome.
similar to the last one. First reading was on consent because this is purely housekeeping. We're just updating some dates and some of the language. But it just allows us to work with the Public Safety Division of Fire Prevention out of the state. They do respond to some of our calls and provide assistance.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for ordinance number 18-2022, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Alamosa Fire Department and the Colorado Department of Public Safety Division of Fire Prevention and Control for provision of mutual aid. If you have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments, please come up to the podium. Do I have anyone in the audience who is coming to the podium? So now we'll go back to Zoom. If you're on Zoom and you would like to make any comments at this time, please raise your hand so we can recognize you. Ms. Martinez, I don't see any hands raised.
I don't either, Mayor.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Council Griego, Council Carson. Griego,
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve ordinance number 18-2022.
Second that.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? Okay, please start voting. Ms. Martinez?
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item, Human Resource Risk Management, public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 17-2022, an ordinance amending the established pay plan for the city officers and employees.
So this ordinance matches the budget that you just approved. It amends our pay plan by that 2% COLA that is included in the budget. And as I explained to Councilor Griego, it shifts the entire pay plan by 2%. Additionally, we had some positions like instructors or umpires that were not in the pay plan. So we are taking a look at those specific not salaries, but pay rates to make sure they are going to be above the new minimum wage. And so those are the only two changes that are made to the city's pay plan with this ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brooks. So at this time, I'll open up the public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 17-2022, and ordinance amending the established pay plan for the city officers and employees. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments, please come up to the podium and do so at this time. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up to the podium, so we'll go back to Zoom. If you're on Zoom and you would like to make comments in this public hearing, please raise your hand so we can recognize you. Okay, I don't see anyone with their hands raised, so I am going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Counselor Daniel,
Thank you, Mayor.
welcome.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 17-2022, establishing the pay plan for city officers and employees.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, please start voting. Ms. Martinez?
The motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you. Brings us on down to committee reports. Do we have any council members with committee reports? Please turn on your light so I can recognize you. Counselor Hensley?
So I'll start off with marketing board. Overall, we're getting near the end of the year, and the numbers that are coming in are very strong. Some of the hotel stays are down, but because the cost is higher, the percentage is still there, so that's good. In regards to the motorway, we have approved basically everything as far as getting it done. We're going to use concrete. We're waiting on CDOT's approval for the right of way, I think is what it is. So it's a real fine line in regards to being able to get this done. We'd like to get it done this year, but a lot is depending on the CDOT approval. And if it runs too close, then we'll obviously have to run into spring. We are willing to do some of the heating type of, I guess, stuff that happens that you can do with concrete if it's early enough. So that's pretty exciting. And then I had Main Street this week as well. And overall, everything was really good. I mean, everybody was giving their feedback. Obviously, really exciting that our vacancies are very low. There's ones that are vacant. People are looking at them. There's different potential things that could be happening. So just as always, real continued positive attitude and major amounts of energy and movement going into the positive direction.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Hensley. I don't see that we have any other lights on, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, staff announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Harry, if you want to make your way, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. So it has kind of the visual that you used for the last presentation. We just wanted to give a quick update on the sewer line work for Main Street.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. So as everybody knows, this is kind of a big project. I know it's been a big inconvenience for residents and also travelers, but we're making good progress. The company that is doing the lining of the pipe started last Friday. We've got through the difficult sections, and what they're doing is they're working at night. We're working during the day on the trench work. They should wrap up this Friday. So everything's gone really well. The questionable area there in the yellow that we thought we might have to open that section of the road up, we were able to line that as well. So we are open. Well, the road is open for the section we had to physically replace. So that's gone well. Great partnership with a lot of the local contractors, Gardner Excavating. They actually pulled off a job out of town, mobilized to help us with this. ACI, they're doing a great job. And Southwest Ready Mix, which there's actually a shortage of cement. So they kind of prioritized our project to get in there and get that complete. Estimated we should be wrapped up on Friday. We have the papers scheduled to come in on Friday and hopefully be back to normal or a new normal on Monday. So.
Okay. Any questions, staff? No? No council? No, okay. All right. Thank you, Harry.
And I do believe Holly has something before she gives an update. Obviously, we did have a fire today at the Walsh. Unfortunately, both our new fire chief and our existing fire chief are at the fire chief conference. So I don't have any details to share beyond, I think, what the general public knows from reading our Facebook post. And so there was significant damage to the roof. We are working with the building owner to see if there's some pre-demolition work and boarding up that can be done, because the building is obviously even more dangerous than it was before. As a reminder, we did not own the building yet. We were under contract for it, and we were waiting for a few steps so we could be qualified for some different types of grants for remediation of it. So still taking a look at that and seeing if anything changed in those areas based on this fire. To my understanding, there was no injuries. We did rescue one individual. The power should be back up and traffic should be flowing. So that's really, I don't have any further updates on the fire beyond that. And Holly, I think you had something you wanted to discuss with council.
Yeah, so for the Citizens Redistricting Committee.
One second.
Go ahead.
Council Griego had a comment
I had
before we go to you.
I had a question on the fire. You talked about the electric being shut down. Did that affect those businesses in that area, those restaurants and all that?
Yes,
They
and
had to shut down?
some of them had to shut down. Yes, so it was unfortunate.
So that was like that, just that block area there? Because we're talking about 2 or 3 restaurants there.
Yeah, I know Purple Pig definitely did. Chief Anderson, are you there and able to talk about the extent of the power?
Yeah, so the power was shut down for a period of time to where it did affect the businesses, basically that corner there of Main and State, from the bookstore down close to San Juan. So
Even Fridays, was Fridays affected?
I am not sure if they were affected by the electric being turned off. I think they actually left because of the smoke.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Ms. Martinez?
Okay, so mine is about the Citizens Redistricting Committee. So you have 5 applicants that you need to interview still. So I sent you an email the other day with some options. Mayor Coleman did catch me earlier and kind of filled me in. So if you want to kind of let me know what you guys want to do on the record, and we can move forward with that.
So we have, council with Ms. Martinez, I brought up the question Councilor Griego brought up in regards to, since we had 12, did we want to go ahead and just select those 12? But according to Ms. Martinez, there's an additional 5 people that still needs to be interviewed.
Well, no, those are the 5 are part of the total.
Oh, they're part
12.
of,
Yeah,
okay, so we have 12 in total then.
right.
Right, I'm sorry, that's what I meant, okay. So, yes, that's what they want to discuss tonight.
Okay.
Just a comment, Mayor, if I may, since we're having to pick 12 people, and I know some of them, we've got more in one ward than the other, but we have 12 people. And if that means we'd have to go back out again and reissue it, we've already done it twice, set a deadline twice. I think we should just go with these people and just move forward with this and get it done. So that's what my recommendation was to the mayor. We could discuss it.
Right. And Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
I think because we have 12 and that was the number we were working for, and it is about the whole city, like it's not, I do think the wards need to be represented. The one question I have, and I just think we just need to have that discussion, is Councilor Krebs does not have anyone on the list to be appointed. That would put us at 13. And so I think we just need to be real about if that's okay with us. I know that we're past the deadline, but I think that's a discussion point that I just didn't want to forget. Since the other counselors who were in wards did get to appoint someone specifically from their ward. But I am comfortable with Counselor Griego's comments as well.
Okay, Council Cripps.
Well, let me put your mind at ease, Counselor James. I shook some bushes and, one person, Mr. Cooper, was more than happy to step forward. I think we put it out there enough times. We asked people enough times. I asked people, I know that other counselors asked people in my ward as well. And so when I was doing the interviewing today, one of the questions really spoke out to me because the answers were all the same when they were asked, what do they hope to get from this experience? It didn't matter what ward they were in. They all said almost the exact same thing. They wanted it to be fair and they wanted to be equitable with the decisions. And hearing different people from different wards say and have the same goal in mind and have the same vision in mind for this committee, I'm very much comfortable with if these are the people that stepped up and they have the interest, then I am for that, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Council Cripps. Council Carson.
I guess the question I have is, if need be, do we make a motion? Should we make a motion to accept those 12 people?
Do we need to make a motion to accept them right now? If council wants to move forward? Okay,
I would so move that we.
So I,
Oh, so create okay,
so it'll come before you for appointments, official appointments on November 2nd.
okay,
thank you.
all right, good.
So
Thank
we
you.
won't have to schedule interviews for the last 5. And they actually all serve on other boards, so you do know them.
Mhm.
One question, if I may, you'll contact these people,
Yeah,
Let
I'll
them
send
know.
out emails tomorrow to let them know they don't need to interview when they're going to be appointed.
and one question I had, who's running this whole redistricting? Is it the city clerk's office, the city manager? Who's
I
running this?
believe Rachel's handling
Oh,
the
Rachel.
committee.
Yes,
Rachel.
Rachel will be lead. Eric is also participating and Holly will probably be attending as well as city clerk. But we've designated Rachel's team or Rachel as the lead.
There was a
Okay.
question earlier about it, so now that we got a clear picture. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yes, Council Cripps.
So Holly, this is my question. So we interviewed some have been appointed, and the need to interview, we've just pretty much, we'll put on the agenda to say, yes, they can go through. When
We'll
you
put-
reach out to them, if any of them step away, will you just let us know that as well?
Yeah, so we'll
Okay.
put all 12 for official appointment on November 2nd's agenda.
Okay.
And then if they step away, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, that brings us down to council comments. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
I was super excited to get to attend the farmer's market with Jolene Webb on October 8th, and I think we had a pretty good time. I got to talk to 3 people who brought things up to me. And so one of the things, I had a brief conversation with Chief Anderson and we'll be able to follow up with that person. But maybe if possible, having just when they can, we know it's not always like able, but having maybe just a little bit more police walking downtown during First Friday. Just to have that, just to know that they're there. I think that could potentially be helpful. Someone, Shanna, actually, who was here earlier, did talk to me about marijuana legalization, selling, having a dispensary in the city again, and we kind of talked through what that process would need to look like and how that would go, and that we have had it on the ballot in the past. And so she said that, just to keep us all in mind that, or to keep it in mind for all of us, that there are still people who are interested in that. And so I told her, there's the process that she is well aware of. And then and Andy, this might be for you, about maybe a bigger boat sign and a put-in, and so, and some fencing, and so I can follow up with you on that, but I had some really good conversation with folks, and then other people came up. I gave someone directions to a place who wasn't from here. Jolene and I had a good time with her kids. We were hanging out. So I think it was a good day. I was really glad to be there. And then also just wanted to say thank you to the team for the lunch we had with the ASU trustees. I think it was beneficial to both them and us to have those connections and to continue to strengthen that partnership. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that. And for honestly, all of the great work that you continue to do. As I visit other towns and communities, I am so thankful for the city team that we have here. I was able to speak in my day job to some federal funder folks who kind of give some funding to places throughout the state, and got excited to be able to tell them that the city is actually looking at how to support housing development with the challenges that we've had and some of the things we've been stepping into as a city that isn't a normal place for us to be. And they were surprised, but also really appreciative that small communities can do this too. And so it was really nice to have that feedback and to be able to share that with people at the federal level. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Counselor Daniel. Counselor Carson?
So I just wanted to say, thank you to Heather, for showing up Thursday. Her and I were gonna do coffee with a counselor and we weren't able to. People were sick and so they weren't able to open the coffee shop so that we could do that. We did have one person show up, that was Don Thompson. And we did talk to him on that nice blistery morning for quite a while. But thank you, Heather, for showing up. And did want to say, thank you to staff and to Heather again for, the discussions and forward movement on the soup kitchen movement or the relocation of the soup kitchen. I had several conversations over the last 2 weeks about that. Some were good, some were not so good. But we came to good understandings as to what the city's reasoning was and why we were doing it. So I just wanted to put that out there again. Thank you. I know that's not an easy task and those aren't easy conversations to have. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. And again, Heather, thank you for showing up. It was a nice cold morning that morning. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Carson. Counselor Griego,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
I just wanted to thank Heather and the staff for that. This is my 39th budget. And the work that goes into it to put this together with the staff, making sure that they stay within their budgets and sometimes savings in our budget. So it's a really tough deal and thank you for all the hard work you do. I did want to also offer our condolences to Councilor Vigil. His grandma passed away 2 days ago. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Vigil's grandma. Huh? Oh, did you want to talk? Oh, on the Park and Recs Committee, I spaced that out. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
We had a good meeting. Our director wasn't there. He was gone, but his assistant, we went through that. And I didn't bring my paperwork on that there, so I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
add to it. They're going to change the hours on the use of the facility now to the winter hours and stuff, and we went through different programs and stuff.
yeah, went through all the different programs and the, looks like, we even had some discussions about, what it would look like, if the school districts decide to go to a 4-day work week. We had several discussions about that, which worked out well with some of the thought process from some of the staff members. We also talked about, the staff was talking about ways that they're trying to move forward with making sure that they have certain measures in place for as we move forward with the pedestrian bridge as well. And Ms. Brooks was there as well to cover any additional things that you feel we should bring up at this time too, Ms. Brooks.
So the two probably, well, the three big items I would say is from the programming, everything is looking pretty good. I think basketball is really high. And so I know staff is utilizing our other partners in the community and their gyms to try to make sure we have enough space because there are some big increases in basketball. from the school discussion, I felt the rec board had a really good, partnership discussion as far as how can we be supportive, but yet we don't necessarily have the means at the same time. And so they are planning on sending a letter to the school board on behalf of the rec board. And then in regards to the pedestrian bridge, CDOT from the region has notified us that they're not going to be running the grant through them, which is one thing. But we are a little concerned what that might mean from a technical assistance side. And so we are having continued discussions with them. And then I think staff was concerned because we have to get the bridge on a list that's owned by CDOT, but thankfully Rachel is part of that group, and it's not going to be that hard. So some of it was just kind of connecting the dots as well, but the bridge might take a little bit longer, but it's going to happen.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for bringing that. I'm glad
Oh,
we have
you're
3
welcome.
people on that board.
Yeah, thank you, Council Grego, as well. Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Okay, I don't see any of the lights on, so I'll just wrap things up. I just want to make sure that, council as best you can on October the 27th, they're going to be having a retirement party from 4 to 6 p.m. for Chief Chapman and Assistant Chief Tony Bobicki. I encourage you all to show up if possible and if it's within your schedule. I want to just commend staff for today on your quick response to putting information out on Facebook about the fire. That's very helpful because then it gives the community reason to know that we're on top of it right away, because when you don't do it, sometimes if you didn't do it, then we'll get the calls. But when you do it, we don't get the calls. So that's great. Keep it up. All right. If we don't have any other comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.